I saw him yesterday, smiling, laughing, cracking jokes like the world was light on his shoulders. He looked free, as if there was not a single worry in his mind. But today, he's gone. And I can't help but ask myself, why? Why would someone who seemed so alive, so present, suddenly decide that life was too heavy to carry? What was hidden beneath that laughter? What storm could be raging inside a person who looked perfectly fine on the outside? Put your device on full screen and stay with me until the very end, because what we're about to uncover could completely change the way you see human struggle, and maybe even the way you see yourself. When we hear stories like this, our first instinct is confusion. He looked happy, she seemed strong, they were surrounded by friends. How could they feel so alone? But the truth is, giving up on life isn't usually about one moment. It's not about a single heartbreak or a single failure. It's about patterns, invisible layers of pain stacked slowly over time. And today, we're not just asking why people give up. We're asking something deeper. What does this reveal about the human mind? And how can understanding it make us more compassionate to others and to ourselves? Psychologists tell us one of the strongest predictors of despair is perceived isolation. Not just being physically alone, but feeling like no one would understand you, even if you try to explain. Imagine carrying a backpack. At first, it's light, a few disappointments, a little stress. But over the years, more is added. Failures, rejections, guilt, loneliness. Every day, another stone drops in. You can still walk, but the weight grows unbearable. Here's the cruel part. The heavier the bag becomes, the more people try to hide it. They smile brighter, they laugh louder, they work harder, because showing the truth feels like burdening others. But silence is not absence. Silence is often pain, surviving quietly. Now let's step inside the brain. When someone begins to lose hope, their brain chemistry changes. Cortisol, the stress hormone, rises. Dopamine, the spark of motivation, crashes. This creates a kind of tunnel vision. The future, once wide and colorful, begins to narrow. Days blur into each other. Tomorrow feels impossible to imagine. Think of it like looking through a tiny keyhole. On the other side, life still exists. Joy, love, possibility. But all you can see is the small dark frame. From the outside, it may look like a choice. But from the inside, it feels like being cornered by your own mind, with no door left open. Here's something haunting. Many people who give up on life are described by others as the strong one, the reliable one, the funny one. Why? Because strength without release turns into silence, and silence is where despair grows roots. In Japan, there's a phrase, hone and tateme. Hone means your true feelings. Tateme means the mask you show the world. Most of us balance both, but for some, the mask becomes the only face they can show. And when no one sees your hon, your real self, you begin to wonder if you even exist beyond the mask. That's why the stories shock us. We think, but they were so alive, they seemed so happy. Yes, that's the mask. Losing hope rarely comes from one dramatic explosion. It happens in cracks. The unanswered phone call, the friend who drifts away, the rejection letter, the job that doesn't come, the family member who doesn't listen. Each crack whispers, "You don't matter, you're not enough." And over time, those whispers echo louder than truth. Think of a glass filling with water. At first, each drop seems harmless, but eventually, a single drop, often something small, makes it overflow. That's how despair works, not from one sudden moment of weakness, but from thousands of invisible drops over years. So far, we've seen how isolation, brain chemistry, hidden masks, and tiny cracks can push someone into the darkest corners of their mind. But this leaves us with one haunting question. If despair is built piece by piece, can hope also be rebuilt in the same way? Research shows that one of the strongest antidotes to despair is connection. Not just casual conversation, but genuine human connection, where someone feels truly seen. Think about the last time you told someone a secret and they didn't judge you. They just listened. In that moment, the invisible backpack you'd been carrying suddenly felt a little lighter. This is the paradox. People often hide their pain because they don't want to burden others. But when they finally open up, the opposite happens. Others don't feel burdened, they feel honored, they feel closer. Connection reminds us that pain shared is not pain doubled, it's pain divided. Psychologists define hope as a belief that the future can be different from the present and that you have some power in shaping it. It sounds simple, but when someone is drowning in despair, that belief collapses. The brain begins to whisper, "This will never change." But here's the science. Small actions, even tiny ones, can begin to repair that belief. Exercise can lift serotonin. Writing in a journal can externalize thoughts that feel overwhelming inside. Helping someone else, even in a small way, can spark dopamine, reminding the brain it can still create value. The brain doesn't rebuild hope through giant leaps. It rebuilds through proof, small, consistent proof that change is still possible. One of the hidden causes of despair is the illusion of perfection. We live in a world of highlight reels, social media, success stories, filtered photos. Everywhere you look, it seems like everyone else is thriving. But here's the truth. Nobody posts their breaking point. Nobody uploads the night they cried themselves to sleep. Nobody shares the invisible weight they carry. The tragedy is, when you compare your unfiltered struggles to someone else's filtered life, you always feel like you're failing. But perfection is an illusion. Even the people you admire most, the ones who look unshakable, are often the same ones fighting their darkest battles in silence. History is full of stories of people who almost gave up, but didn't. Famous writers who were rejected dozens of times before creating masterpieces. Inventors who failed again and again before changing the world. Artists who struggled with despair, yet created beauty that healed millions. What changed for them? Often it wasn't a sudden flash of inspiration. It was a single moment of grace. A friend who listened, a teacher who believed, a stranger who showed kindness at the right time. That moment reminded them, the story isn't over. And sometimes that's all it takes. Not the removal of pain, but the reminder that the book still has unwritten pages. Here's something we don't talk about enough. We are all part of each other's survival. Every time you check in on a friend, every time you offer kindness instead of judgment, every time you remind someone that their presence matters, you are planting seeds of hope in soil you cannot see. You might not notice the difference. They might not even say thank you. But deep down, that gesture could be the drop of water keeping a fragile flower alive. Because sometimes the smallest reminder, "I see you, you matter," can be the only thing standing between despair and resilience. But what about when the battle is inside you? Here's something powerful to remember. Your mind is not your enemy. It's just a scared storyteller. When it says, "You're not enough," it's not truth. It's fear, disguised as certainty. One of the best tools is self-compassion. Not toxic positivity, not just be happy, but the simple act of treating yourself with the same kindness you'd show a struggling friend. Ask yourself, would you call a friend weak for feeling hopeless? Would you tell them they don't matter? You'd hold them, you'd listen, you'd remind them of their worth. Why then do we refuse to offer ourselves the same compassion? The journey back to hope begins when you stop fighting yourself and start listening to yourself. So, why do some people give up on life? It's not because they're weak, it's not because they're selfish, it's because the invisible weight they carried finally felt heavier than their strength. But here's the truth we often forget. Strength is not about never falling. Strength is about reaching for the rope, the hand, the light, even when the fall feels endless. Maybe you've been there, maybe you're there right now. If so, remember this. Life is not asking you to be perfect. It's not asking you to smile through every storm. It's only asking you to stay, to give tomorrow a chance to surprise you, because tomorrow has saved more lives than we'll ever know. If this reached you, even in the smallest way, hold on to that thread of hope. And if you know someone silently carrying a heavy backpack, remind them, they don't have to carry it alone. This isn't just a story, it's a reminder that even in the darkest chapters, the story is not over yet.